Well, hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some easy, quick steps that you can take to secure your Wi-Fi network from attackers and cyber criminals. Now, there are a number of different things that can happen if your Wi-Fi network is not secure. Now, I did a video where I talked about all the different security threats to Wi-Fi networks, and I'll put a link to that video down in the video description. As with all my videos, check down below the video for chapters if you want to skip easily to different sections of the video. So without further ado, let's get started. As always, folks, if you want to hire us, check out the Hire Us link in the video description for more details. Okay, everyone, so here we are on our desktop. Now, we have a sample router here. This is just an emulator. This is not an actual live router. So there's a couple things that we're going to need to do to make sure our Wi-Fi is secure. And the first thing we're going to do is update the firmware. And those updates address a lot of times security vulnerabilities, and sometimes they even add new features. So it's really a good idea to upgrade your firmware on a regular basis to make sure you're protected against all the latest security threats. So here we are on our router, and typically we're going to find this under advanced. Now, your router is probably going to be different. If you have something like an Eero or a Google Wi-Fi, those will typically update their software automatically. So if you have a Google Wi-Fi or an Eero, you can probably skip over this section of the video. If you have any other router that has a web interface like this or an app, you can follow along with this. So here we are, and we went under advanced. This is a TP-Link router, but many routers will be similar. And if we go under system, we have firmware update. And you're going to look for something similar under your router. It's going to say firmware update or software update, something like that. And typically they will either allow you to update it through the interface here, or you'll have to download the file and upload it into the interface. If you're not sure how to do this, I recommend that you contact the manufacturer of your router, and they'll have instructions, and they may even have support personnel that'll walk you through the process of updating the firmware. It's really important though, before you do this, to go into your backup and restore, back up your configuration, because with some routers, they will actually clear all of your configuration out when you do the upgrade. Most new routers should retain the configuration. Again, check with your manufacturer about their specific instructions for your router. The next thing we're going to do is talk about the Wi-Fi name. So let's go under wireless here, and we can see that the SSID, this is what identifies our network, and this is obviously what you see in your device when you go to connect to the Wi-Fi network. I recommend that you change this to something unique. Don't use the default Wi-Fi SSID. Here we can see TP-Link 4567. So I'm just going to click in here, and I'm going to backspace this out. I'm just going to rename this to Ken's Wi-Fi. If you're really concerned about your privacy, you can name it to something random, or some folks call it something totally crazy. It's really up to you. You can be creative and call it whatever you want here. The next thing we're going to do is set the security. Now, when we click this drop-down box, we're going to see various different options for security. We never want to use open or enhanced open or any of that stuff. At bare minimum, you want to use WPA2. And if all your devices are compatible, I would recommend you use WPA3. WPA3 is the latest version of WPA, and it's going to provide the highest level of security for your Wi-Fi network. Now, if all of your devices are not compatible, you may want to consider setting up a guest network, which the guest network has a lot more restrictions on it. You can set a slightly lower level of security for the guest network and connect insecure devices that are not compatible with higher security to that guest network instead, and then connect your devices with more sensitive data to your more secure Wi-Fi. Now here you can see we have this set to WPA3 Personal. There is an enterprise version of WPA. Those are usually reserved for business routers, and those use external authentication usually to authenticate wireless users. That's going to be a little beyond the scope of this video. So here we're just going to select the WPA3 personal. We don't want to include WPA2 if we don't have to. By default, a lot of routers will also include WPA2. So that's why you see this WPA3 personal plus WPA2. I'm going to switch this to WPA3. Again, if you have devices that are having trouble connecting, when you switch it to WPA3 only, I recommend you set those devices up on a guest network if at all possible. The password, this is going to be the important section, okay? This password is not secure at all. It's a set of numbers, and if somebody tried to brute force this, it probably wouldn't take them very long to do that. The best way to do this is to set a long password. Now with Wi-Fi, you can have up to 63 characters in your password. And when I say long, yes, you can set it to 63 characters. And in some cases, you might want to do that. But I think you also have to be reasonable. If you have a lot of Wi-Fi clients, or if you're going to have to be entering this password frequently, you may want to choose something a little shorter. I recommend at least 24 characters. That seems to be pretty good. You can use a random password generator. I'll put a random password generator link down in the video description. You can use that and generate a highly secure, highly random 24 character password for your Wi-Fi. You're going to want to put that here. In this particular router, we have multiple SSIDs. And so we have a separate SSID for the 6 gigahertz network. If this is the case for you, you're going to want to do the same thing with the other SSIDs as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we've changed the administrator username and password. Believe it or not, a lot of folks never change this. So if we go back into System and we click on Administration, in this particular router, we have a couple of different options. Usually it's a local password. Now you're going to want to make sure you have a fairly long and fairly secure password for your router. This is where if somebody gets into this, they can change all your network settings. They can get all kind of additional information about your devices. So it's very important that you have a secure password for your router's administration page. If you're using Google Wi-Fi or Eero, those already have authentication. They're going to use either your Google account or your Amazon account to log in. So you can skip this step if you have one of those devices. The next thing I want to talk about is device isolation. And this is an important security feature. You can isolate devices. You can either do this, some routers let you do it through a guest network. This particular router allows us to isolate the devices right here in the interface, and this explains what isolating the devices does. It's also known as AP isolation. It will allow those devices to access the internet, but it will not allow them to communicate with other devices on your private network. This is important if those devices are less secure. The example they give here is for IoT devices, but it would also apply to guest devices as well. So you're going to want to make sure that things like IoT devices or guest devices have this access point isolation feature turned on. Now, if we go back to wireless here, you can see we have multiple networks here, but most routers are going to have a guest network option. So let's click on that. And you can see that this is giving us all different SSIDs for the guest network. Okay. And here, again, I still recommend you change this from the default SSID. And I also recommend that you set a password on this. By default, this one is set to open. We can do encrypted, and we can have a password here. I'll try to put a link down in the video description to explain more about access point isolation and what that does for you. It's not going to be as good as something like VLANs, which I'll get into in another video, but it's going to provide you a little more security than you're going to get out of the box. Now, one of the most common issues I run into is folks say, well, if I make a 24-character password for my Wi-Fi, it's going to be a pain in the you-know-what for me to get my devices connected, because I'm going to have to punch in that password every time on every device? Well, here's a solution for most devices, not all. Any devices that support scanning a QR code, you can actually generate a QR code. I'll put a link to this QR code generator in the video description. You're going to want to make sure you have everything exactly correct here, otherwise the QR code will not work. Now, I went ahead and generated a random 25-character password here, and I'll just show you what that is. And I can say generate. And this is asking me what type of encryption it is. And when I say generate, I can actually print this QR code, and then any devices that I want to connect to my Wi-Fi, I can scan this QR code and easily connect them without having to type in that long password on each device. Well, that's going to do it for this one, folks. These have been some quick tips on how to secure your Wi-Fi network and protect you from hackers and security threats. What do you think about the steps we went over in this video? Do you have any questions? Let us know down in the comments section. We always love to hear from you down there. As always, remember to like this video so others can find it a little bit easier. Click on subscribe and hit that bell. And we'll see you next time.